This year I'm going to be a lot more intentional about getting out and seeing new things. And so today I'm in Ripley, Ohio, and I'm going to take you along with me. I'm walking along Front Street in Ripley, and they're doing a lot of building behind me, more towards the downtown. They're doing a big revitalization project, putting in a boat dock, a marina, and a park. And so that's going to be really nice when it's all done. And as I'm walking along Front Street, these houses are gorgeous. There's so much cool architecture here. Let me flip this over here so you can see some of the homes, some grand old homes, some Federalist styles, some, I don't know, Italianate maybe, mansions right here overlooking the river. I mean, just look at this place right here. It's gorgeous. As I continue down Front Street, a lot of these homes have tablets out front and little markers, so you can stop and read a little bit about the house. And most of them talk about the anti-slavery movement, and Ripley was really a hotbed for abolitionists back in the day. And in fact, we're going to visit a few of the more famous houses, structures, talk about the famous men and women that lived there. But you can see, so again, we are just across the river. Those hills over there are Kentucky. Of course, that was a slave state, and so right here, Ohio was a free state, and the men and women in Ripley, a good number of them helped the escaped slaves cross the river, come into here to the underground railroad system, and head north from here to Canada. Look at that house. I live there. This is the library here in Ripley, and it is a Carnegie library. So they got a grant from the Carnegie Foundation. It's one of 104 in the state of Ohio. There's only a few here in Southwest Ohio. There's a number in Cincinnati, but in the rural areas, there's really only this one here in Ripley, and there's one in Wilmington. This is a really cool one. This is built in the prairie style. There's only two in Ohio that are built in the prairie style. This lot here, it sits on the corner of the main road 52 that goes through town and Main Street. And the lot is built up well above street level to help with the flooding. So they built it up as high as the record flood, and it still got flooded out in the 1937 flood. This is the John P. Parker House and Museum. There's also a couple of lots right next to it that now are a nice park. John was actually born a slave in Virginia. He was sold further down south to a doctor who actually taught him how to read and write. From there, the doctor sold him to a patient of his, and that lady actually let him go out and work and earn money. He earned enough money to buy his freedom. From there, he went to Indiana and then later settled here in Ripley, Ohio. Once here in Ripley, he joined up with a lot of other folks in town, a lot of other abolitionists. And John was very responsible for helping slaves cross from Kentucky over into Ohio, and he housed slaves right here, hid slaves right here in his house, and then moved them further north up to the Rankin House, and then further on the Underground Railroad from there. So this museum is closed right now. It's open, I think, May through October, or maybe April through October. So I do plan on coming back in the summertime and checking this museum out. I've never been, so I'd like to see it. Why do you think there are chains hanging off the front of this building here? Did that like once hold up an awning or something? Just curious. I've seen a couple of structures have those chains like that are, I think, abandoned. So if you know, let me know in the comments. The old Ripley School, built in 1915. It's got all new windows in it. They're obviously doing some work to it, so it's being turned into something. Maybe apartments, senior center. So if you know what it's going to be, let me know in the comments. This is the old piano factory here in Ripley, and now it's a big antique store. This is bringing back some bad memories for me. There's a really neat rock wall that goes along both sides of the stairwell here on the way up. Almost there. Made it. Well, John Rankin is arguably one of the most famous abolitionists, certainly in this area of Southwest Ohio. And he built this house way up top this hill in 1829. So John was actually born in Tennessee. He was a minister. Early on in his ministry, he began preaching from the pulpit an anti-slavery message. So the folks in Tennessee told him he should move up north. And so that's what he did. He had Ripley on his mind because he had heard that a couple of other abolitionists from Virginia had settled here. So he worked his way up here. He actually was in Kentucky and heard they needed a pastor there. So he pastored in Kentucky for, I think, 4 years. And then finally made his way here. And the story that I read says that he actually arrived on the Kentucky shore, on the other side of the river there, on December 31st. I think it was 1831, and then rode his family over across the river on January 1st, 1832. Now, he first settled in the town. He built a home down there and lived there for a few years and was active on the Underground Railroad as a conductor. And he realized pretty quickly that that was not an ideal location to help harbor slaves and to help move them on further north. So in 1829, he built this house high above on a bluff overlooking the town, where you can see the whole town. You can see the river, you can see Kentucky, and that way he could see if slave hunters and bounty hunters were coming his way. So from this location here, him and his sons, he had 13 kids in all, and a lot of his sons helped him harbor slaves and then move them further north to Red Oak, and then further on to their ultimate goal in Canada. So, but this is a museum as well, just like the John P. Parker house. This one as well is closed for the wintertime. I believe it's open from about mid-April through October. So if you're in the area over the summer months and want to see some of that history, stop into Ripley and check out both museums. Put it on your list. The Rankin house was really cool to see, and the view is spectacular from up here, but I've got to head back down. John Rankin himself is the one who built these steps. Obviously not these wood steps that I'm currently on, but he's the one that built this stairway down to the town, and he built it so slaves could have easier access as they're coming in the middle of the night across the river from Kentucky. They could find this stairwell and make their way to his house easier. And a lot of those stones are still there for the stairwell. They put in wood kind of railroad ties to make your footing a little bit more sure, but it's really neat seeing that history as you're walking up and down this stairwell. The story goes that Rankin would put a candle in his window when it was safe to cross, and so slaves on the Kentucky side of the river there could see it and know when it was safe. A lot of historians discount the fact that it was a candle in his window and probably think it was more of a lantern, maybe up on a pole or something. That would have been a little bit easier to see, but either way, it would signal when it was safe to cross, and they would come across the river. And the river was much smaller than it is now. It's been dredged and dammed, and it's a lot wider and deeper now than it was then. But they would cross nonetheless, even in the middle of the winter time. There's a famous story that he told of a lady named Eliza, and he told that to a friend of his with the last name of Stowe, a minister in Cincinnati, whose wife was Harriet Beecher Stowe, who heard the story and based her character of Eliza in Uncle Tom's Cabin off of that real person. And so they would cross, and they would come through the town, often stopping in town at John P. Parker's or one of the other abolitionists, and getting food and directions. And they would make their way to these steps that I'm now coming down. They would come up these steps, get to the Rankin house, and he would either hide them there or sometimes in the middle of the night take them on and to the next stop on the Underground Railroad. So it is really neat. You're walking through history here. I've lived in this general area of Ohio for more than 20 years now, and I've never really been to Ripley. I've been through it, and I had dinner here one time at a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore. Other than that, I've really not been here. But here's what I saw from walking around. It's a beautiful town. There's lots of evidence of rebuilding and revitalizing. The people here care about the town, and they're trying to bring in tourism. all these river towns were once great thriving towns that the story is the same for a lot of them. After the last great flood in 37, a lot of the towns just kind of dried up. A lot of people moved away. A lot of businesses moved away. Tired of getting flooded. It did a lot of work to the river, so floods like that shouldn't happen anymore. But the town has such history, especially if you like Underground Railroad history. There's so much here to explore, from museums and plaques along the walks, architecture, a lot of grand homes, especially down on the river on Front Street. They're here, and they've got magnificent churches, historic buildings, all still here, wonderfully preserved. And like I said, there's a lot of evidence of rebuilding. There's still a lot of abandoned buildings and homes here. There's still a lot of structures that need work, but there's evidence of them trying to turn it around. And there's a lot of businesses here to support already, and I think that list will be growing. So if you're looking for a cool, unique, historic little place along the river, check out Ripley, Ohio, and check out the museums and bring your tourism dollars here. That's all from Ripley. I'll see you on the trail, maybe the road.